Aston battles cold and treachery throughout a 500-mile race in Iron Will, and Gabrielle Anwar's family falls victim to body snatchers.
Yes, I thought you were working late. Are you in love with her?
Richard Gere is tortured by the choice between his wife, Sharon Stone, and new flame, Lolita Davidovich, in the melodrama Intersection, one of 5 new pictures we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, along with movies about basketball players, dog sled racers, body snatchers. We cover the earth. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is Intersection, and this has to be one of the dullest, dreariest tearjerkers ever made. What can you say about the story of a man who has to choose between 2 women, one who is cold, one who is warm, and both of whom are completely uninteresting? The movie stars Richard Gere as an architect who's been married to his partner Sharon Stone for 16 mostly loveless years. Even their arguments seem strangely lacking in passion.
Vincent, are you all right?
What do you mean, am I all right?
Sonny, you're acting a little crazy.
But now that Gere has left Stone for another woman, it's strange, but they feel a renewed attraction to each other.
I don't think this is such a good idea. I don't think we can come here every day to the same office.
The other woman is a magazine writer played by Lolita Davidovich. Gere keeps talking about how they're going to build a new house together, but somehow she has her doubts.
I'll go get the car this afternoon so we get started pretty early. What?
Why do you do that?
What do you mean?
Why do you leave it at her place?
Not because I don't need it in town.
Why don't you leave it at my place?
Because we have your car there. It's convenient. There's a garage. Why are you doing this? Please stop. I don't want to do it anymore.
You don't live with her anymore, but your car still does. Is that it? What else do you leave there? A toothbrush?
The 2 women meet at the opening of a museum Gere has designed. Davidovich knows about his 13-year-old daughter, but this is the first time she's met his wife.
Well, it's nice to have met you. At last. Likewise.
Intersection is a throwback to the tearjerkers of 40 or 50 years ago, those weepy movies starring people like Joan Crawford in melodramas where a surprise ending allowed everybody to be noble and sad at the same time. This movie depends so much on how it ends that the story is almost entirely a flashback, and yet the big surprise development when it comes is cornball and way too neat. Another problem is none of these characters are the slightest bit interesting.
Well, that's the big factor.
Yeah.
I mean, he's given a choice, and as you said,
who cares?
No one cares. And then the film doesn't even hold him to any standards. Why did he get involved in this relationship with Sharon Stone?
Yeah.
With Sharon Stone?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in other words, was he in it for the money? I mean, he isn't challenged on that basis.
No, it shows that there was something wrong right at the beginning in why they're getting married, but that is never explained. And then later on, what do they hate each other? Do they like each other?
Nothing.
First they fight, then they like each other. Then they fight, then they like each other.
This is completely, the Davidovich character, for a magazine writer, she's an awful simp, I think,
Yes,
throughout
she
this
is.
picture.
Yeah.
This is completely underwritten, and I'm telling you, people who are going to hear Sharon Stone and Richard Gere, and they're going to think hot sex.
Yeah.
There's none in it. They're going to think violence, none in it.
The sexiest moment in the entire movie was the charade game where they were trying to figure out the title, Tale of Two Cities.
And you figured that out real quick.
I figured it out a lot faster than she
You did.
Yeah.
Okay, next movie, and our next film is The Air Up There, the latest attempt to cash in on the professional basketball craze, and this is a comedy and an African travelogue as well about an American coach going to Kenya to recruit a college player. Kevin Bacon is the coach, and he sees the raw athlete named Salah, played by Charles Gitanga Maina, as his own ticket to coaching stardom back in the States.
Do you have any idea what it's like to play against top players in a championship game? It brings out talent that's been sleeping inside your body. It's talent that you never knew you had. I mean, it's like suddenly you could fly.
I often think I would like to fly.
The air up there couldn't be more predictable, but it's clear all of the Kenyans involved in the making of this film are having a great time, and their joy does come across in scenes like this training sequence as Coach Bacon prepares the Wanabe tribe for the big game against the rival Big City team.
I'm Mingori Mining. I've just stolen your cattle. Now, I'm going after your family. That hoop is your boma. If I get past you, I'll get you. Yeah, right. Kill me. But next time, do it without touching me. That's defense.
The Kenyans are fun, but the game, well, it's predictable.
Yes! That's our guy. That's him. Tell me you got him locked up, Jimmy. Tell me you got him locked up. Only if we win. Go Wanabe!
The Kenyans are so enjoyable, I wish that this story were written brighter. I also would have liked to have it follow the character of Sala back to the United States and see what his life would be like on campus. That could have held some real promise. But basically, The Air Up There is a kid's movie, and that's why I only enjoyed, I think, parts of it.
I'm pretty close to you on this. You know, in every movie of this sort where the underdogs have got to win the big game, they're always behind at halftime.
Right.
And something happens at halftime, and then they go out there again. But this is the first one where they are told at halftime, hey, now we're going to give you basketball shoes. And then, sure enough, they can play better, just like in a Nike ad.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Didn't you expect it to take him back to the States?
I thought the whole movie was going to be about the African coming to America.
Yes.
And frankly, I found it refreshing that most of the movie takes place in Africa, because that was something I hadn't seen before. And if this movie makes it, I'm sure that the sequel will have him coming back to the United States.
Well, that might be more interesting.
In any event, you vote
I'm
down.
voting thumbs down.
And I'm voting thumbs down, too, but with affection.
You got it. When we come back, Abel Ferrara's Body Snatchers, the third movie version of the Pod People story.
They're out there. They're everywhere.
Is that my cat?
Gabrielle Anwar is the star there in Body Snatchers, looking a lot differently than she did when she did the tango with Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. She is one of the potential victims of the Pod People, visitors from outer space who have arrived on a U.S. military base. Their method of attack is very simple. Those slimy tentacles suck the life from the bodies of human beings, and then the pods perfectly duplicate the people they've killed. You can't tell them from the originals except for one clue. They don't have human emotions. Shortly after that bathtub scene, Anwar's mother, played by Meg Tilly, who is already a pod person here, watches happily as a pod sucks the life from her husband, played by Terry Kinney.
Dad! No, Daddy, no! Wake up! Daddy! Daddy!
Trying to escape the house, he still doesn't know that his wife is a pod, but he finds out soon enough.
What happened in your room? Are you listening? What happened in your room is not an isolated incident. It is something that is happening everywhere to everyone. So, where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna run? Where are you gonna hide? Nowhere. Because there's no one like you left.
One by one, the pods are taking over the Army base. Anwar's new boyfriend, played by Billy Wirth, searches for her and finds her just in time.
Marty! Marty! Marty!
Tim?
Now, I know those clips make Body Snatchers look like just another gruesome horror movie, and for that matter, it is a gruesome horror movie, but a good one. It was directed by Abel Ferrara, who made the unforgettable Bad Lieutenant, and here he puts a whole new spin on a story that's already been told in 2 earlier movies. There is more action in his version, less dialogue, and the visuals are really scary as that teenage girl realizes no one around her may be what they seem. This is the best scary movie I've seen since Single White Female.
Well, you know, Roger, I admired the artistry of it, but I thought that really what it was just sort of sketch work in the sense that you have him taking this very familiar story, and I didn't feel there was a new wrinkle. I think that he just did it in a very artful manner,
yes.
And I got tired of that. I guess I'm holding him to a higher standard, and I'm thinking, if you're going to do it, I know that he can do this artfully and do it well, but what is it?
He does it so well. He does it so well because what he does is he tells the story basically with visuals instead of with a lot of people standing around with their theories. And also, you've got to admit that the scene in the end with the little brother in the helicopter is one heck of a scene.
But Roger, the picture just ends. I don't feel that I just didn't feel he added anything to the story.
Most of the people who go to see this movie won't necessarily have seen the other two versions.
I have, and I'm reviewing it off of myself.
He did a fine job. Now, the problem with this movie is Warner Brothers has opened it in 2 places in Texas to see how it does, and then if it doesn't do well, it's going to go straight to video. And I think it would be a shame because I believe that there aren't very many good horror films around right now, and that this is a good one, and I hope it does get a regular theatrical release.
I'll say this much for it, that if you are interested in this picture, the place to see it because of the visuals is in a big theater, not on a small screen. Okay. Coming up next, the time is 1917 and a cross-country dog sled race is on. Can a young American win it? Iron Will is next.
Don't have to die for it. If we lose the farm, we'll lose it fighting. We're not going to lose it.
An American teenager during World War I competes against adults from across the globe in a cross-country dog sled race in Iron Will, the latest entry in the family film sweepstakes. And this story has all the elements kids like: dogs, the outdoors, a race, and a gutsy teenager. Here's the story. A 17-year-old lad from South Dakota who has just lost his father enters a dog sled race with a top prize of $10,000, just enough to save the family farm. But the kid doesn't have the entry fee. A newspaper man bails him out. No wonder I like this picture.
This young man is not allowed to compete. The 20 million Americans who daily read Kane papers will loudly cry, "Foul!"
Once in the race, young Will Stoneman, played by Mackenzie Aston, is kept alive by his courage and by his lead dog, Gus.
Gus. Oh, I fell asleep, didn't I? I would have died if it wasn't for you.
As the race continues, the tenacious kid, now nicknamed Iron Will, becomes a folk hero as he traverses the countryside.
You're on the front page every day. Every paper from here to New York City. Wait till you see. The whole country's rooting for you.
I think what we're seeing with pictures like Iron Will and even that African basketball movie, The Air Up There, is an attempt to recapture the innocent joy of sport, which is so often missing from the big money world of professional sports today. While big-time athletes are getting attacked with steel rods and being knifed in the back, the movies, I think, are wisely offering a fantasy alternative. Iron Will is a formula story, of course. My mind raced ahead of it. But I wonder about the kids it was made for. I suspect they'll cheer. And I did hear cheering when I saw it.
That may be so. I didn't cheer. I actually thought that Disney made a better picture a few years ago called White Fang, which is also about the North and about dogs and about dog sleds, and it was better photographed, too. This film is awfully predictable. And, you know, although I can imagine that a young kid, especially maybe a young boy, might enjoy it. That's what I was thinking. It just really didn't try to be anything more than that.
I thought that maybe with some of the outdoor shots of the actual sled work and with the dog, that was the element of the picture I liked.
Yeah, but even there they used the wide-angle lens to make it look like the sled is going so much faster than it really is.
Sometimes
gimmicks like that.
Well, sometimes I thought that some of that stunt work I thought was very real, and I thought they were going very fast. That's the way I read it. Coming up next, a new movie making its debut this week at the Sundance Film Festival, a documentary about would-be basketball stars trying to make it from the rough neighborhoods of Chicago. Hoop Dreams is next. Sundance Film Festival, a premier showcase for independent films, the movie world will be discovering a very special documentary called Hoop Dreams, which follows 2 inner-city Chicago youngsters on their quest for basketball stardom. A most ambitious project. The Hoop Dreams production team follows the boys for 5 years, from their freshman year in high school through their freshman year in college. And what a story we get. Here we first meet young William Gates as he is sent off from his home in the projects to a mostly white middle-class suburban Catholic high school that specializes in recruiting black basketball stars.
You killed us! Why did you leave the ball before you?
He asked me, do I want to be a great player? And I keep saying, yeah. He said, for 4 years, I'm going to be on you every day. So he said, you might as well get used to it now.
Elsewhere in town, young Arthur Agee also attends St. Joseph's, but when his parents can't come up with his partial tuition money for the school, he ends up playing for his neighborhood high school team.
If he was going out there and he was playing like they had predicted him to play, he wouldn't be at Marshall. Economics wouldn't have had anything to do with him not being in St. Joseph. Somebody would have made some kind of arrangement, and the kid would have still been there. He's not making it like they thought he was going to make it on the basketball court, so he's not there. Simple as that.
Hoop Dreams runs nearly 3 hours, and the extra running time lets us follow the rising and falling fortunes of these athletes, like when William Gates suffers a knee injury and is tested by 2 crucial free throws in a junior year playoff game. Then Arthur Agee does make it to the state finals, but he's unable because of bad grades to get into a 4-year college.
If I set my mind, I can go. I can go. Get in good college, I can go. But if I don't, I ain't gonna be no drug dealer, cry about it, come back and, stick up gas stations or nothing like that, Probably going to comedian or architecture, something like that.
I'll tell you how good Hoop Dreams is. I couldn't wait until the end of the picture to see what ultimately happens to these kids. We learned that in a series of titles flashed across the screen, but I'm hoping for updates as their lives progress. In a few years, I'd like to see another documentary on them, a documentary on chasing the NBA dream and the often harsh realities along the way. Hoop Dreams will play this week and next at the Sundance Film Festival. I'm sure it's going to be received well there. So let me add my congratulations to those that are going to be earned by director Steve James and photographer Peter Gilbert. They have made a special film.
Boy, they sure have. This is one of the best films about American life that I have ever seen. And for 3 hours, I was just totally absorbed by the story of these 2 families, really. It's not just the kids, but their families. And we get so many images in the movies of black inner city characters with guns and drugs and gangs. Here are families that are struggling to make it. You don't hear all the 4-letter words or the 12-letter words. You see dinner on the table at night. You see kids getting up before dawn in order to take an hour-and-a-half commute to go to school. You see them trying to study, and then at the same time you see the way their basketball skills are really manipulated, even at the high school level, before they ever get to college, by people who want to make use of those skills. It's a movie that just raises so many questions and has so many insights.
And on the movie level, these are 2 characters. I think there are people who, when they hear documentary, they think, they'll back off. You're going to find these guys more interesting and fully written in the ways that we're always knocking pictures for being underwritten. Here are 2 exciting characters.
Let me just suggest one thing to you. We talked about the air up there and we said, well, kids will like it. I think kids would like this too, really like it, because this is a real life story about kids their
I think they will too. And I'll tell you, when this kid is shooting his free throws, we know who's shooting them. And that's terrific. Coming up next, a better Richard Gere film than Intersection, also about a man who can't commit to a woman. Our video pick of the week is next. Video pick of the week, and I've selected a better Richard Gere film than Intersection. It would be hard not to. My recommendation is American Gigolo, which Gere made 15 years ago, also playing a character who has trouble committing to women. But this movie was innovative at the time. He played a high-priced stud on the make, here involved with a wealthy LA wife, played by Lauren Hutton.
No, Michelle, I'm really not part of your problems. I'm certainly not the solution to your problems.
I brought money.
Gere's acting style also seemed fresh, as if he actually were a great-looking rube playing in a world of money and power that was way over his head.
Why are you trying to frame me?
The young Richard Gere there, an actor who took chances being vulnerable, that's still his trademark, but we saw it first really in Paul Schrader's American Gigolo, our video pick of the week. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs down for the miserable Intersection, with Gere torn between 2 underwritten and underperformed female characters. 2 thumbs down, but just marginally, for The Air Up There, the African basketball movie. The Kenyans are fun. The retread story, however, overwhelms them. A split vote on Body Snatchers, director Abel Ferrara's take on the sci-fi horror classic. I found it to be more of a sketch than a fully developed story. Roger enjoyed the whole thing. A split vote on Iron Will, the dog sled racing picture. Roger was bothered by the formula plot. He's right, it has one. I still thought that the boy and his dog offered some compensation. And finally, 2 very enthusiastic thumbs up for Hoop Dreams, an epic documentary about a couple of inner-city kids who dream of becoming basketball stars. Through their eyes, we see an unforgettable portrait of American urban reality. The film debuts this week at the Sundance Film Festival, and that's the one.
Earlier I said that Body Snatchers is playing in a couple of places in Texas. Actually, it's playing in Austin and in Sacramento, California. So if you live in either one of those places, go to see it. At least you can see it on a big screen.
Okay, that's it for this show. Next week we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including a controversial film, I'll Do Anything, starring Nick Nolte and Albert Brooks, and the story of the ups and downs of an out-of-work actor. And Blink, starring Aidan Quinn as a Chicago cop, and Madeline Stowe as a blind woman who regains her sight only to become a murder witness. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.